All right, everyone. Welcome to the Minds Podcast. We're here with Libby Emmons, the editor-in-chief at the Post Millennial. We have done some great collabs on Timcast IRL together. I'm sure you all know her. Welcome, Libby.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
And we also got your main man, Sean. So we got Carl back, Mr. Sargon of Akkad. You know, it's funny with Sargon. He was one of the original back in like 2016 big YouTubers that signed up for Minds and kind of brought over a major migration. And that was right around the time that he originally got banned from Twitter. Sean, do you remember the specific reason he was banned?
So obviously he got in trouble with the MP, Jesse, I forget her name, Jess Phillips. That got him in the hot water. But what actually got him banned was he was trolling the alt-right. He was actually he had done some streams and then he did some posts kind of attacking the alt-right. So it was always bizarre that he was actually banned on Twitter for going after an extremist position, you know.
That's way back when Twitter was a free speech platform before it got taken over by the woke moderator mob.
Yeah, that was right in the beginning when they really started to, you know, the dominoes started to fall one after another in terms of culture war topics. Like, I don't know if I would go so far as to say Twitter was ever fully free speech, but I think that obviously back in the old days, they were way better. And yeah, it was probably around the time when Sargon got banned that it just started being much more of an ideological moderation system.
Yeah, it was like right after this comes on like the heels of Gamergate and all of the skeptics and anti-skeptics on YouTube. Yeah, this is like when they started ramping up. And Carl, yeah, he was like one of the first big ones lost his account. I'm frankly, I was shocked that 5 years, like they've had this account for 5 years. I don't know like how the technical back end works, but like it's 5 years, like they can just do that.
I think it's been so cool to see a bunch of these accounts come back. Yesterday, we saw Savannah Hernandez come back. She works with the Post Millennial a great deal. I'm a big fan of her work. That was really exciting. It was great to see Project Veritas back on the platform. They were banned after accidentally showing a lamppost outside a Facebook executive's home or something like that. That was like the argument, I think, is what James O'Keefe was saying. Recently, James Lindsay is back on Twitter. Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal account is back, and she launched that in high fashion last night with a major epic rant about, you know, everything basically that she believes in and stands for. That was a lot of fun. Last week, of course, Babylon Bee. That was great. Who else came back with Babylon Bee? Jordan Peterson. It was funny to see Kathy Griffin come back. And it was funny because my team, I was like, oh, I think it's cool that Kathy Griffin came back. And they were like, why? She's just this leftist lunatic. And I was like, yeah, let all the lunatics back on the platform. Like, let's see them all, you know? And if they don't get
we need the
engagement,
inmates.
they don't get engagement.
The inmates are taking over the asylum again.
Right. Yeah, I've never like been banned on Twitter. Which is I think because I'm super careful to not use pronouns or call anybody the wrong sex. I think is really the only place where I would have gotten in trouble for that. But yeah, I've loved it. I've loved it. It's been like so much more fun. And of course they brought Trump back. I think he's totally ridiculous for not coming back on the platform. He gets so much engagement. You know, I mean,
he will.
It would be
It's just
pretty
he's playing
sweet.
games. He's, you know, he's probably like even just as a tool to drive traffic to all of his different campaigns and his app. Like he's gonna do it, but it's
he
like
has to do it.
It's like it's an ego game. That's what it is. It's a billionaire ego game between him and Elon.
Between the two of them.
And you know, fine. I think that they should try to. Totally agree with you about Kathy Griffin. And it would be cool if they, like, what other high-profile left-wing personalities were banned that haven't been?
You know, there
must be a few.
There really weren't that many. I mean, yeah, there was Destiny, who I know is one of your
Oh yeah,
favorites.
we got to advocate for him to get back.
I
on.
know
Yeah.
we gotta get him back. Yeah, yeah.
But
Also,
there weren't that
Myth-Informed
many
Sean's
like
account is still banned.
Myth-Informed.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
dumb too. You guys got
I don't
banned
know.
over you guys got COVID dinged, right? It was like a COVID ding situation.
No, it was a it was a trans parade. It was a LGBT parade, and I don't even they claim copyright because they had the celebrity drag kid that was it was some man on the street interview.
Oh, right, Desmond. It was Desmond. Desmond, the soon to be castrated drag queen.
Yeah, all we did was share a clip from a man on the street interview, just asking random questions.
Yeah, I remember.
Of people in the LGBTQ parade, and there was nothing.
He showed a video, right? Like,
yeah,
the man on the street showed a clip.
Yeah,
yeah.
And it was like there was nothing. It was like not defamatory. It was like a total innocent tweet that we were like, oh, this isn't, it's probably not going to do well, but it was just interesting. But yeah.
Libby, what are your thoughts on the process, or shall I say lack of a process, that seems to be happening? It's sort of like, just
it's almost like they just open the door.
Yeah,
they
but
just it's almost like they just turned it on
accounts.
I mean, I don't know accounts that are still banned. All of the ones that I was interested in seeing back. Megan Murphy is back, which I thought was great. She's a Canadian feminist, very outspoken. Yep. She was banned for calling Jessica Yaniv him, even though Jessica Yaniv was a British Columbia person. Sorry, yep. I don't know what you're allowed to say. Anyways, he's this person who brought immigrant women who performed waxing services in their homes. He brought them up under the Human Rights Tribunal for their refusal to wax her balls.
Yep.
So Megan Murphy called Yaniv him and got banned in the fall of 2018.
But men aren't women, though.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and she's back, and when her account was suspended, she had 25,000 followers, and she's already substantially above that now.
Streisand effect in action.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was gonna. Melissa Tate is still banned. She was.
All of these people are now vastly more popular and viral than they likely would be had they never been banned. It's unbelievable. The whole thing.
Yeah, I basically have a career because my old career got canceled. Yeah. I wouldn't have a career now I wouldn't have that career likely because theater got destroyed during the pandemic. And indie theater is basically dead. So I wouldn't have that career and I wouldn't have this one. It's kind of like, bonus, Yeah.
Yeah. Like the way I see it, I'm with you, Bill. Like the people that are coming back, they are getting huge influx of followers, which is great to see. Some of the accounts were restored without their original followers, which I thought kind of sucked, but it's almost
was that random. Some had followers and some didn't, or
Trump's didn't have it. Like when he first came back, his followers weren't there, and then they fixed it. There's been a handful where they weren't there.
I think it depends on whether or not the account was fully suspended, like fully permanently banned, or whether the account was simply locked over refusal to delete or something like that. Like Babylon Bee was back. Their account was never suspended. They were just locked out of it for not deleting that tweet.
Yeah, and I will say, I think that, when an account gets like permanently suspended, it's not necessarily like a conspiracy that Twitter like deleted all their followers. I would imagine there could even be some like database issue when that happens that causes the followers to go away, which, if you're saying that some of them get restored later, then that makes sense. What are you feeling about Libby, what about all the people who have any of the people that you've talked to received actual communications like you've been reinstated, or is it just kind of the type of thing where they were just randomly able to log in?
Randomly able to log in. That's
so strange.
Yeah, that's what Savannah said. And James Lindsay also said that there was no communication. It was just like, oh, now your account works again.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
account is the Myth of Thorn account has been banned for a while, but I still get like 10 emails from Twitter every day. Oh, you might like this, you might like that. You would think they'd have
Right.
one email that goes out. It's like, hey, you're back. Like,
Right.
um,
Yeah, but I think maybe the people who would have taken the time to do that administrative dirty work got fired.
could be.
And it's clear that it's not really necessary. Like if you want you've been banned, Elon Musk took over, free speech is back in the kingdom of this social media castle here. So to go check it. Nobody needs to tell you really.
Right.
Yeah, but you would think that of all the thousands of people who got banned during COVID for, posting some study, which later turned out to be true or something like that, wouldn't they want to tell people like, hey, you're back? I mean, I feel like a lot of people without a following might not check, like, have any it's like, I just sort of almost feel it's great. I mean, it's a huge step in the right direction, but isn't it a bit of a missed opportunity on Twitter's part to not be like, hey, we just, restored 300,000 accounts that were banned for, this thing during COVID, and now they're back. And it just seems a little bit random. I understand they don't have the staff now, and they're probably just, all
Right.
hands on deck.
Right? Like I was seeing something, I think it was Mark Andreessen posted that if he was a young person working in tech right now, he knows exactly where he'd want to go take a job, which would be at Twitter. It does look like a lot more fun, even though it does look like also a lot more work. I certainly would not fit in with the matcha latte meditation wine on tap crowd. But I definitely would fit in with a bunch of people who want to stay up all night and grind and have some weird inside jokes. So
I
I
will
could see
say
it
though,
being a much more fun place to work.
they do still have thousands of employees. So it's not as if it's
Hmm.
like this tiny little startup
Startup.
now. I mean,
How many people did they have, do you think? Like, what did they have? How many people
I
did they have?
I want to say they're down like roughly 75% or something. So I think that they were, I don't want to say a wrong number, but I think it was,
Hmm.
near 10,000 or something.
Hmm.
I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, it's just odd to me because sending out an email communication to, all the bucket of people who like, that is very kind of easy to do. It's not as
Hmm.
if that is that incredibly complicated. So I do kind of question some of that, and I'm holding my breath. I've been talking about this too much because I want to give Elon time. I know this takes time. I think my time frame is like 6 months. I'm willing to be like super patient for 6 months. But in terms of things like open sourcing the algorithm, encrypting messages, things, any types of disclosures about what was going on with the algorithm, because like everything pre-acquisition was all, we're gonna, check out, we're gonna open the algorithm, we're gonna, it seemed like there was gonna be something that happened after the acquisition, and it's like now we're not hearing anything about the algorithm.
I think they're going to get to it. Um, I think it's, when the buy went through, what was it, like a month ago, something like that? Things did not seem to be happening very quickly. Um, Getting people's accounts restored was the thing that I most heard from people. Like, why aren't these accounts back? When are we going to get people out of Twitter jail? All of that. And that is happening slowly. I think
Yeah.
these things take a little bit of time, and I'm willing to be a little patient. I was certainly willing to be patient for all of the years when you couldn't call men who dress
Yeah.
like women men. Um, Although it was interesting the other day, I don't know if you saw this. There's a small account called Inside the Classroom, and
Yeah.
it's someone who I know, someone who's like, sent me information and tips and stuff like that in the past. And their account was locked. They were locked out of their account for hateful conduct after saying Mr. Levine in reference to Rachel Levine. And this was on Friday.
Right. So
They
yeah.
deleted the tweet, they got their account back, and then it turns out that the people who reported the inside the classroom for the hateful conduct were teachers that the account had exposed, as for example, bringing critical race and gender theory into math classes, into calling other teachers cis white heteronormative supremacists or whatever random stupid insult they came up with. So this stuff is still happening too, and I think that's going to take some time to get worked out.
Yeah, and just like a new policy needs to come out because those old policies are still in effect and they're still up on the website, and they're just seemingly being selectively enforced randomly. It seems like enforcement has gone way down. And yeah, policies take a long time to change, but it's just, isn't it funny that like what has changed, and it just shows that the power of management at a startup has. It's like they have terms that basically the CEO is not complying with right now. And those are still up, but it's kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, the CEO gets to decide, how they enforce those terms, regardless of whether they're up or not. So very fascinating, definitely great stuff happening in the realm of free speech. So, the internet, the internet is improving. And I think that having one big tech company, coming from a space of having been fighting the free speech wars in social media for like a decade, I am really excited. I think of it as a net positive for Minds, for, alternative social networks in general, to have one big tech company that is actually doing this. It used to be very much so like us versus them.
Right.
And now it's more so like, it seems like there's a friend.
Right? Like maybe we have one on our
side.
side. It's certainly not Mark Zuckerberg, who wants all of us to leave our bodies to rot on the couch while we go frolic in the metaverse. Something that just I find absolutely insidious and anti-human.
Well,
I will say one slight point. This is, I'm not defending Zuckerberg's dystopian hellhole. I'll never go in there, but you can get amazing workout in VR. Next time you go to Tim's house, have him show you VR workouts. Just put it on for like 5 minutes. It is like you will be drenched by the time you're done. Like I did boxing one time, and it's crazy. So
yeah, I'm just as happy to ride my bike under the nice blue sky.
You must go into the
yeah, I don't even end up drenched in sweat, but I do end up happy and breathing clean air. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last piece on this for me, it's like, it's interesting. Twitter seems to be a happy place right now. Like this is the first time in a long time, at least for me, where people are actually cheering and like people are coming back and they're celebrating it. And it's just interesting to see how
except for the notable exceptions.
Right, but I would say,
Whoopi
like
Goldberg,
Yeah, I know, but you're always gonna have those people, right? But like for the most part, like it seems very like people are actually excited and like celebrating each other, which is normally Twitter's the other, it's normally
right
the opposite of that. But yeah, it's interesting.
Cool. Well, let's look at Libby's recent piece.
Yeah.
Oh, these are some of the notable exceptions. These people are not happy about the free speech provisions, the new free speech provisions on Twitter. Yeah, so this was interesting. I'm sure you guys have seen this. We've been seeing it for a few months, that journalists who report on the sexualization of children are targeted. The ideas that they put out are not targeted, but the individuals are targeted. And I think that the attempted silencing of these individuals is actually an attempt to remove the ideas from public discourse. Brandy Zadrozny, Ben Collins, these other people, they do not want there to be any conversation about whether or not it's acceptable to have gyrating dance drag queens exposing themselves to children. They don't want to discuss whether or not it's okay for 5-year-olds to be taught that they may be born in the wrong body. They don't want to discuss any of that. So instead, they just say that the people who are discussing that, the people who are bringing questions, are evil and hateful and need to be silenced. And now they're going further and saying that those people, Matt Walsh, for example, or Libs of TikTok, are directly responsible for any people who are, who are violent against any LGBTQIA, etc. person.
Yeah. Isn't this really just like the perfect example of, kind of the culture war, just this infinite kind of feedback loop where both sides think that each other are the terrorists, and like this like terrorist language is getting thrown around, and like it's just it's endless, it seems.
It's totally endless, but like the way I look at it, it's like you're always going to have differences on the left and the right, and the left and the right is so different now, and like what are the rules anymore? But I think one of the things the left has really had a hard time defending are the drag queen like performances for kids. Like this is such a it just doesn't make any sense. Like this is a weird hill to die on, and I've talked to a lot of people on the left that don't support this. Like obviously sex ed, things like that, educating kids, that's needed, but the whole drag queen like dance hour is just bizarre.
Yeah, why are they defending this? Why are they defending this? And further, not only should we be asking the question, why are you defending sexual performances for children in libraries and schools, but why are you saying that to be opposed to sexual performances in libraries and schools is anti-LGBTQ? Right. What do sexual performances for children in schools and libraries have to do with being gay or trans? And so when you have Christina Pushaw, who, works for Ron DeSantis, or others, James Lindsay, for example, saying that this is grooming and predatory behavior, you have people on the left saying, oh, you're being anti-LGBTQ. Stop, and they say, stop equating predatory groomeriness with LGBTQ. And it's in fact the left that is making that equivocation. And they're saying that, any attack on sexual content for children is an attack on the LGBT community. What's sort of really disturbing about that is, so I came up in the arts. I was in theater for a very long time. Obviously knew a lot of people with different sexual orientations or gender identities or what have you. It's no big deal. It's the arts. We're all grown-ups. Everyone can do as they please. But a big part of what was going on in the earlier days of the gay rights movement, when you had people just starting to advocate for gay marriage, is we had gay men and lesbian women saying, we're not pedos. Just because we're gay doesn't mean we are looking to sexualize kids. That's not what we're about. We're just gay. That's just that's how God made us. It's not a big deal. Stop thinking that we're here to like pervert children. Now they are legit there to pervert children, this whole movement, not gay and lesbian people, but this movement is here to pervert children. And they're telling us that saying you can't pervert children is anti-gay rights. And that linkage from the late left over here, I find extremely offensive to gay and lesbian people at all. Like, I haven't known any gay men who are looking to like have these kinds of interactions with children. Not a one,
Yeah,
and
the
so seeing
the
this
bar
is
is moving.
crazy.
Yeah, the bar is getting pushed into this new realm. And the thing about drag is that it is almost by nature obviously like a sexualized sort of space. And so regardless of saying, oh, well, this is who I am and I'm not gonna hide that from children, like by adopting the sort of drag identity. And, you know, it's just like, yeah, I agree. I think that there's plenty of LGBTQ plus people who don't want that.
Right.
And it's, you know, the one interesting argument that you hear like in the classroom, I'm curious your take on this, Libby, like, you know, they'll say, oh, well, you know, cis relationships are constantly talked about. Why can't we educate kids about gay relationships? What's your take on that?
I don't think we need to educate kids in schools about any relationships at all.
But their point is that they are already.
Yeah, their point is that they are already, but like, you know, I don't think that that's the thrust. I think what ought to be taught in schools are great narratives, the history of our nation, history of other cultures, you know, math, science. I don't think we need to be discussing any of these kinds of relationships. I don't think teachers need to come out to their students. I don't think they need to tell their students if they're married necessarily. I had no idea about any of my teachers. I've actually been giving this some thought, and there was a friend of mine in high school whose parents were very strict, and she wasn't allowed to date. Even so, she was seeing a boy who was a few years older than us in school. And when he went to college, she wasn't allowed to stay in touch with him. He wasn't allowed to call her house, anything like that, because her parents would find out. And one of the teachers in the science department at our school let her use the computer to like do what passed in the 90s for like DMs to her older boyfriend. And so at lunch, we would like, you know, grab our fries and cookies for whatever garbage we ate from the lunchroom.
Chicken patties.
And we would go over to the science lab and DM with her boyfriend. And in retrospect, you know, at the time I thought, oh, this science teacher is cool for letting her do this because he had been a teacher. He had been the boys' teacher as well, and now he was our teacher, and like, isn't that cool? And in retrospect, I'm thinking like, that's horrible that he did that and didn't tell her parents and allowed this to go on, fully aware of the situation, which he was, because my friend was very secretive about it, and there was a lot of giggling and whatnot because we were 17. That's what you do. But I don't think that that's appropriate. I don't think that teachers should be having these sort of super personal relationships with students that are outside the realm of discourse and intellectual inquiry. Certainly, relationships with teachers about ideas, about shared love of books, what have you, are things that I've had, and I don't have an issue with that. Mostly, though, those were in college, where such things are between adults. Everyone's over 18. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if your teacher is coming to see your play and everyone's going for drinks after, there's nothing wrong with having your professor join you, which I think is totally fine, but that's not high school. In terms of teaching, like, you know, these relationships, I don't think that relationships are necessarily being taught just because there are heterosexual relationships in books that you might read, for example, or just because you're reading about John Adams and how close he and his wife Abigail were. That doesn't mean you are studying relationships. That means you are looking at history and you are looking at books. And I think that it's perfectly fine to bring in books that have other lead characters, that have other relationships. And it's fine, I think, to have those be relatively normal. But that is not what we're seeing in schools. What we're seeing in public schools is the enforcement of Coming Out Day, the enforcement of Trans Day of Visibility, Pride Month, Bisexual Awareness Week. Just yesterday, I was working with one of our writers at Post Millennial on a story, and we went and looked up the schedule of Pride Days. And the paragraph of Pride Days is bigger than any other paragraph in the article. It's countless days. I mean, it's dozens of special Pride Days.
Oh, we lost Bill. It's all right. He'll be back.
We lost Bill. Okay.
It's all right.
Yeah. So that's what I think about that.
Yeah, and
So,
like for me, I think like the thing that's insidious to me, like obviously, I agree with you 100%. We can teach stories about heterosexual couples or homosexual couples. It's totally fine, whatever. Like that's not the issue. It's the drag shows, which are again bizarre because they're essentially strip clothes. It's like strippers, right? It's like those are strange. But then also like the knowledge of if kids decide to be identified as an opposite gender or different name or whatever the case is, the schools don't tell the parents. Like that's the craziest thing to me. And I was actually talking to one of my friends who's a teacher, and yeah, I guess it's like that's the way they operate, is they don't tell the parents a lot of the things that the kids are going through. Which just seems like so backwards to me. Wouldn't you think they would be the first people, like you'd want to contact if someone's like, hey, I identify as a different gender, I'm having these feelings or these thoughts or whatever the case. Wouldn't you think the parents would be the first ones,
Yeah, but schools don't think that they have a responsibility to discuss anything with parents. I'm experiencing that with my son's class now, as regards not this, but like a bunch of other stuff. Like apparently he was wearing the wrong sneakers for gym, and nobody told me for 6 weeks, and they didn't let him play gym, and he doesn't want to play gym. He doesn't want to play, so he didn't tell me, and now he's failing gym because
Right.
the teacher didn't tell me for 6 weeks that he was wearing the wrong sneakers. Now, the fact of the matter is, the shoes he wears every day to school, they are sneakers. They're just slip-on sneakers, and they're complaining this doesn't have enough ankle support. Well,
yeah,
there's reasons that my son doesn't wear the other kind of sneakers. Like, these are the sneakers, and I'm basically in a standoff right now with this piece of shit gym teacher.
That's so bizarre. Bill, you're fine. Bill said, yeah, his internet dropped. His internet is screwed right now. It's always funny. Bill's working on a computer that he totally needs to update, and he has spotty internet. And I'm like, Bill, you're in the tech business. Get a new computer. You gotta get it. Like I got a new Mac, and it's like, first of all, I have issues with Apple. I'll go on the record and say, obviously, I have huge issues with Apple. But man, their laptops are fucking really.
I love mine. I have like 3 of these, like 3 of them.
I know.
But
huge problems with Apple. But yeah, I mean, the whole not telling the parents thing is such a strange rule to me, I guess. And I'm sure people in the comments probably know better than me. But from what I understand, it's a lot of schools' policies to protect the kids from their parents or something along those lines. It's like it's some rule that's been set up, and a lot of them are public schools where they're, I don't know, Libby, you would know better than me, but it's this weird thing where they don't tell the parents what's happening with the kids in school, and it seems so strange to me. And then you have the drag shows and everything else, and it's like it's bizarre, like it just seems backwards.
Yeah, it is backwards. It's totally garbage. I'm opposed to it.
But Libby, thanks for coming. Sorry I lost Bill.
Yeah, that's okay. I always am happy to talk to you, Sean. I adore you.
Oh, thank you. I'm moving into your new place. It's me, Brian, Garrett. We're all gonna move in. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm planning to build a little tiny house. So
that's gonna be awesome. Yeah. As far as so you're on Jack next. You got some other shows coming up. What's going on?
What am I doing? I'm going to talk to Jack on Human Events Daily. I love talking to Jack. It's a lot of fun. I'm talking to Drew Hernandez later. Awesome. And then I'm aiming to take the rest of the week off, hopefully going up to see family. My brother and I, we hate holidays, me and my brother. And then last year we came up with this plan where we didn't have to go to Thanksgiving anywhere. We didn't have to figure that out. We decided instead to go to a restaurant and have a big feast, me and my brother and my son. And we did We had the best Thanksgiving ever
That's
last
awesome.
year. So that this is now our tradition. We're gonna stay in a nice hotel. We're gonna go for fancy dinner. We're gonna walk around in Boston, which is my ancestral home. So it's
So,
gonna be
so you're
divine.
from
Yeah.
Boston originally.
Yeah, well, my
Originally,
my
like you grew up.
family, yeah, my dad's side of the family is from New England, going back. They're from half New England and half Norway. So
Oh,
going back to like sometime before the United States was the United States, my dad's family was here in New England. And then the rest of my family were immigrants. I have Norwegian immigrant ancestors, and my Italian immigrant ancestors came to New York City.
oh, cool.
Yeah, in like the early 1920s, late 19 teens,
Gotcha.
is when they came here. Yeah, and so my family's been in New York and New England, um,
And you have
for
neither
very long times on both sides.
accent.
Well, if I have a little too much to drink, and I'll see you probably at America Fest in Phoenix,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my New York accent will emerge.
Yeah, but
So
then you also have this weird Canadian accent that comes out of nowhere. Like
I
when you
I
say,
hang out too much with Canadians.
yeah,
That's
I
the
know.
problem. So, all
You
right, but
smart.
I gotta run. I
Libby,
gotta go to
thanks
this
for
next thing.
thanks for
Thanks so much,
joining us.
Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Come back anytime. Love you, Libby.